Now let's talk about the structure of a C++ program, and here we're talking about pure native C++. Now understand that when you're coding in native C++, there have been no provisions made for a GUI, or in English, a graphical user interface. All you get is just pure code that's going to run and function, and it's going to function at some command line type environment. Now a C++ program, when it's all said and done, is simply a collection of functions. Now a function, you ask, and I answer, is a self-contained block of code that has a unique name. In other words, we're going to write some lines of code, could be 2 lines of code, could be 2,000 lines of code, and we're going to give it a name, right? Get data, feed dog, whatever we want it to do. We're just going to give it a name, and then we're going to call that name, and that's called invoking the function. And just by referring to that name in code, it goes, it finds all those lines of code, and it runs every one of those lines of code in order. So you cause all the code in that block to execute. And we'll talk about a block in a separate video here in the course. Now, when you start a C++ program, it has a normal starting point, but since we don't have a graphical user interface like we do in some of the like Visual Basic.net or Visual C#, we don't have a form that we point to and say, okay, this is the starting form. What we do have is a function that's called main, and you see the name right here. You see it's main and open parentheses and close parentheses, the main function. Now you'll have one of these in every native C++ program, and any other function in the program can trace its origination back to main. You know how we can get on the internet and start chasing down our ancestry? Well, any functions in a C++ program, if they were to get on the internet and start chasing down their ancestry, it's always going to end up back in the main function. Now you can have a function inside the main function that calls another function, which can then call another function, which can call another function, and I'm sure you see a pattern developing here. So our program can get quite complex. It can branch out many times, but understand it always starts in that first original function that's called main. So each function then provides its own specific functionality. I'm using the word function in various forms of it a lot here. All right, but the bottom line is I can create these separate little sections of code, give them a name, it becomes a function, and then I can call that set of functionality anytime I want to. Now this is pretty cool because each one of my individual functions can be tested individually, and they can also be reused. So if I write a function that connects to a database and makes that database available to me for reading or writing, I can put that into a function, and then I can reuse it from 50 different places in my program. I just keep calling that same function, and I might even want to pass something unique to it. We'll talk about all that stuff later on in the course and do some examples. Okay, but that's the basics that you need to understand about a C++ program structure. Everything starts in that main function.